Hi, everyone. This is Trevor Dykstra with the Seattle Design Festival Committee. I just wanted to let you know that our recording of the Design Jam, we lost a few minutes from the beginning. So we're going to do a little animated video here to get you up to speed, and then we'll take you off to the rest of the jam. Thanks.
That's visible from um, the public right of way. So really asking people to think creatively about how they could utilize murals, sidewalk art, window art, posters, all kinds of different creative physical manifestations to get the festival out into our public as it would be if we weren't in this situation. Once again, there are sources for inspiration in the call for proposal that you can reference, as well as each of these elements has an amazing team from our core team that are here to support if you need assistance in that thinking. Perfect. As Trevor zooms out, just as a reminder, our call for proposals has a wealth of information, including a frequently asked questions page that addresses a little bit more. Please feel free to use this document as a resource throughout your proposal process, and then let us know if you have any additional questions. I'm going to pass it over now so we can explore how to interact with Mural. Yuris, do you want to take that away?
No problem. Well, hello everyone. My name is Yuris. So just to help acclimate yourself to this new digital environment we have to work with nowadays, um, it's it's not as daunting as one would think. So on your left-hand bar, there are really two tools we're going to be using here. There'll be the sticky note tool, which once you click on it, you'll have options of all kinds of colors and shapes. But the big idea is that you can just click and drag and start writing in it and adding your idea. So really intuitive and easy to use. But for those people brave and willing to share your drawing skills, we also have a pen tool here that will allow you to scribble down any quick ideas, or if you want to gesture to anything, or really, have some fun with it. It's going to be a really nice way to get to collaborate with so many people. Like as we see right now, we have around 40 people on the call. So imagine how much fun this is going to be. So for our next section that we're going to be covering right now, feel free to play and explore and work with these tools, because in all reality, that's the best way to get to know how to use them. Thank you.
So we're gonna jump into an icebreaker to sort of learn this tool a little bit. I'm going to continue to share my screen here for those who can't get into Mural. But we're going to have 2 minutes, and the icebreaker challenge is here. I'm going to summon everyone. So if you're on Mural, you're going to get dragged to my view. You'll see this big green thing here. We're asking for people to draw an emoji of how you're feeling right now, and you can actually take one of these little circles and copy paste it or whatever. These circles can be, the color can be changed, etc. And then you use the pen tool to draw. And we're going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to start the clock now.
Have some fun.
I know we had just one person just join, so we are currently using Mural for our icebreaker. I will be sure to repost the mural in the chat.
One thing we forgot to add up top, apologies. We are recording today's session for the most part. If you're not comfortable with that, just send us a DM and we'll figure out how to make sure you're not part of the video.
Oh, this is great. Look at all those great drawings being made.
Time is up. I think everybody got that alert on their thing. We'll figure out what's going on with this big blue thing here. All right. So what we're gonna do now? Did we want to do the voting thing here?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're gonna do one other thing just to test out a thing. We're gonna give everybody some dots to vote on your favorite emoji, and I'll give you a few seconds here to just vote. You vote by just once you have the dots, you'll vote just by clicking on your favorite drawings. So we're gonna give everybody 4 votes, starting now. like we have a couple stragglers. I think we're getting close. We'll give you 20 seconds.
All right, pressure's on, everyone.
All right, let's see how we did. So one thing we learned here is that the drawings don't show up in the votes, but from the colors, you can tell that one of our faves is right here. Who does anybody who drew the orange wanna pop up and say something?
That was me.
You're really capturing the essence.
Yeah.
How about this one with the 12? Tell us about your emoji, if they're around. See if we got any more here. Oh, number 10 here. Okay, this pink one.
That was 12, I think, was me. Having a really hard time figuring out where you were pointing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I know we're jumping. I should summon everybody to my cursor, and then now you're all sort of seeing what I'm seeing. If you're in Mural. So yeah, this one here with the is that Amy?
Yes, it is.
Tell us about your emoji.
It's really hard to not be happy on a sunny day in Seattle.
Even if you're inside on a video call, I guess.
Right. Well, yes.
Let's do one more. I want to do this pink one down here. Are they around?
That was me. I participated as staff. I actually get the curls in there.
Perfect. All right. Well, so hopefully this has given everybody a little bit of sense of how the tool works here. We're going to go ahead and start with our actual exercises. So we're starting with round one here. This is, you're going to be posed the question, what does about time mean to you? We're going to randomly sort you. Oh, we have a few people saying connection issues. Hopefully if you're having issues, you can follow just on Zoom or vice versa. We're going to ask you the question, what does about time mean to you? And each room will be sort of challenged to think about it in either the past, present, or future. And we're about to randomly sort you now. I think Annalie is going to do that. So you're going to see yourself go to a breakout room, and each breakout room will have a facilitator there from the committee to sort of guide you through the next step. We'll have 10 minutes for this round, and then we'll all come back into the main room here to discuss.
Right. Perfect. So I'm going to open up the rooms now. Just go ahead and accept that invitation.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It was in my history. Okay, cool.
Also, if you don't have access, maybe just write it in the. I can display my screen maybe, and then maybe type your answers in the chat, and then I can paste it for you.
Yeah, that works. Let me know if you can do it, and if you can't, I can share as well.
Let me know if that works. Wait.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So are we focusing on past? On what about time meant in the past?
Yeah, so it could be what it means to you, what it means in the world of design. Very open-ended right now.
Mm-hmm. It'll become more and more specific as we progress through the exercises. So this one's very broad. And if anyone needs any more of these.
Are those the stickies?
Yeah.
Okay.
And feel free to change the size or the actual shape. And Julia, if you want, just type me a message and I can.
Sure. All
Yeah,
right.
should we be having a discussion now with someone taking notes and adding here, or should we be adding to the mural board?
So you can add if you feel comfortable. I'm also kind of listening in and taking
Okay.
notes as we go along. If anybody says anything interesting that I feel like needs to be shared on here.
Mm-hmm. Also, I mean, maybe take some time on your own to kind of fill something out, and then we can kind of discuss it a bit further.
I just put my comment, but I realized it went to everybody in Zoom. I don't know. I'm not able to select whoever's
Okay.
collecting them for our group.
Actually, can you send it to
You can do a private
Michelle
message.
or Matt?
Yeah, I've got it. I see the message.
Just because.
Oh, there we go. Now I can select her. 1 second.
Yeah, can you send it to
Michelle?
Michelle or Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just because I don't know how to.
There we go. Oops.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Awesome. I got it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I really like that we have bananas flambe in there.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone else having trouble with the mural board? I can't move it around. I can only zoom in and zoom out.
Oh, I figured that out. There's, I think in Zoom settings on the bottom right, there's an option for trackpad mode or mouse mode.
Okay.
Because mine earlier kept thinking I had a trackpad and then I couldn't move around.
Thank you so much.
No problem. We're all figuring it out together.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take 2 more minutes and then we can all talk about our ideas.
I need a spell check on it.
Mhm.
All right, is there anyone else that needs, is there anyone that needs more time?
I'm good.
Okay. Does anyone want to volunteer and talk about their ideas?
I can kick us off. Just one thing that I was just thinking about was just having more free time away from our phones and work, and just how we used to not be so connected in the past, and we're maybe a little bit more present in our daily lives.
Great. Yeah, a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share their thoughts?
I'm really curious about the banana flambe.
I am too.
What is that?
That was me. Can you hear me okay? I took my earphones and
Yeah, we can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
yeah, so I repeat for a few people that were on at the beginning. So I said the first thing that popped into my head for It's About Time was there was a restaurant when I was growing up called It's About Time, obviously with the H and a Y there. But and they were kind of famous for their bananas flambe, and we went there for my 16th birthday, and I got a banana flambe.
Oh, I love that.
Which is really surprising to me because I'm not a nostalgic person at all.
Yeah. But I feel like food is such an interesting one. I feel like there's so many different types of foods that can be nostalgic that like you really vividly remember from when you were a kid or a teenager.
Maybe it's because I still love banana flambe.
Yeah.
Stuck with me.
Anyone else interested in volunteering their ideas and thoughts?
I'll do one more. So I did my other one, which is really what I work with a lot now in projects that we create, is meaning and significance. And so, you know, the past in general history, whether that's physical manifestations or conceptual, is generally how we negotiate significance in our present and for the future. So I think that's a platform for social contracting.
Definitely. Anyone else? We have 1 minute and 17 seconds.
I really appreciate whoever wrote Sepia Tone.
Where is that?
It's like top corner on the left.
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested in who wrote living through something and then living through it again. The repetition of time or the coming back around. That's interesting.
That was me. Hi. I was actually thinking I went through, well, I'm advising a team of graduate students who are going to graduate this summer, and they're designers. And I had a conversation with them yesterday about what it would mean to graduate into this environment. And I started talking with them about my experience, which was graduating from my undergrad in 2009. And just kind of reflecting on some of the enormous joblessness that we're seeing right now, but how it feels different to me because I lived through an entire cycle of that before, and it was devastating, but then came out of it. And so the kind of changed perspective that I have about this after having gone through that.
Yeah, like that expression, history has a way of repeating itself. There's always kind of like a pattern or like a cyclical thing that happens.
I love that. Yeah, kind of that benefit of experience that it mitigates the shock.
Down cyclical. That's a very timely.
So will our breakout groups just send us back?
Yeah, I think from what I think we'll get a warning or something, or maybe we did.
I thought that we saw a warning that said time's up.
Okay, let me. I'm pretty sure we ought, oh, you can go to, okay, so you can go to the top and then on more, just go to leave breakout room.
Or the bottom right.
Oh, yes, sorry, on my screen, stop.
Apologies. Yeah. Okay. So sort of a measure of what you've done. Other ideas or things that this has brought up?
I think they're like going off of George's point, like different ways in which time can be measured. There's perception of time. There's like your body's clock. There's like your feeling of time, and then there's also mechanical time, which is regular.
Biorhythms.
Yeah. So I feel like time is pretty fluid and like flows and spurts and speeds up at times and is really slow at other times.
So yeah, perception. It's not necessarily like, so flow, variable flow, maybe.
Energy, the energy that we all possess in our spine, that is our life force, is the prana or the chi, or it's measured by different Asian systems, but it's energy.
Energy. Let's see here. Put that there. Yeah, there's the. I mean, you could talk about biorhythm. It's sort of, there's also your clock, your internal clock of like, things can feel too early, too late, depending on how you personally feel, not necessarily based upon anything. That's the most important thing, like your internal perception.
Culture.
Yeah.
Time passes in Sri Lanka. We also used to joke it, you drink 5 cups of tea before you got anything done. So culture is a big part of your presence.
Let's see here.
I'm also trying to think more about the word about, which I think is like on the topic of time, or about could be like moving about something, like around in a circle.
Rhythm?
Yeah. So rhythms.
And not just any movement, dynamic movement, because we are creative problem solvers. So we're constantly on the go. We're dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Dynamic. All right, so we got about a minute left. Is there a way to coalesce this into a few ideas that we can share back to the main group? Looking at what we've got here.
Oh, neurodiversity. Just go ahead and throw that in there, because that's what it all is.
Okay, let's put that there. Oh, Cyversity. Okay, so this is in that range. Failures. This is more about personal aspects. This is more about I mean, it's sort of well, let's see. Culture. Oh, we got culture a couple times.
Seems like all of these things are viewed through the lens of your personal perspective, whether
Yeah.
it's failures or culture or energy. It's all the personal perspective is the lens through which you perceive time.
Mm-hmm. So if we put that sort of, I wish it would let us move text up or down, but I think maybe shrink it. There we go.
Just general health. Everyone that may actually have the coronavirus right now, the time is passing very slow for them. You know, so your health may impact it.
Yeah, that's good. But that actually could sort of take this over into there. And then there's mindfulness and sort of, this is sort of in between. There's sort of also the, I guess it's still personal perspective, but it's sort of awareness, maybe outward something.
It's called the Buddhi mind.
What was that? the Buddhi mind?
The Buddhi mind. There's different aspects of the mind in Indian philosophy and Buddhist philosophy, and you go into chitta vritti. That's the actual aspects of the mental afflictions that are very well noted in the Yoga Sutras and the Yoga Hatha Pracikapa. So that's what they focus on, is the mind.
I think a bunch of things fit right in with that. This is in that direction. Culture, I guess, goes, that might be something different. Measurement, I think, is an interesting way. Like, that's outside of these things that are sort of tied together, but there's sort of this idea of like just the physical concept of time relates to a lot of this what's the word? Physical?
Calibration, because we're always
Yeah, there we go.
calibrating our mood, you know.
Which that gets into this. Okay, so when we drop back into the main room here in just a few minutes, who would like to who would like to share with the main group our ideas out of the 7 here? And it won't be me.
I'll do it. Fine.
Sounds great. Was that Leanne?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'm going to have her close the rooms here. You can actually, if you want, on your screen, you should be able, I'm going to stop sharing here. You should be able to, oh yeah, they're closing right now. But you also can just return.
Hello. All right. How's everyone doing? Give everyone a few more seconds to join in on this.
Doing well. How are you, Eurus?
Doing good. Staying toasty and well lubricated. That's like the best you can do.
Hydrated?
Of course. Like a water.
Yeah.
How's everyone else doing on the call?
Doing all right. It's a little, I will say I find this app distracting. I'll say that. And I just lost one of my colleagues because of that. So just giving some feedback.
No, especially with all the cursors flying around everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I don't know if I should be looking at the screen share or the actual, if I should be in Mural.
Well, see, that's the fun thing. So if you want to participate and actually start writing in there and drawing, feel free to just follow the mural and just look at the yellow room,
Okay.
and you'll be just fine. But if for some reason you do not have access to mural, just follow along with my screen share. So it's like an option for both people.
Cool. I wish I was on my double monitor because then I would be on both, but small screen is like, okay.
Oh, I hear you on that. If you see me turning, that means I'm actually looking at you guys. All right. So with our topic being, what does about time mean to you? With our prompt, we'll be focusing on the future. And especially right now with how things are and just got shooken up in the past 3 months, we definitely are left with a sense of unknownness. Like what's happening? What are things gonna be after all this? So this is a moment to just start talking about how do you think things might change in the future, especially with how things are going. And just feel free to just word bomb it, throw it out there, and I'm more than happy to capture it.
I hope not a lot changes.
Hello, everyone. Finally, I am in the yellow room. Okay. So what did I miss, yours?
Well, I just gave everyone a little warm up to the prompt and how we're focusing on the future aspect of about time and what it means to us, especially right now with the whole COVID situation.
Absolutely.
So as you can see, look at that. We got people already filling up all these dots. I'll make some more. You didn't expect to see so eager.
Sounds amazing. Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us with this virtual design jam preparation for the Seattle Design Festival virtual. And please share your thoughts here.
Yeah. And feel free to talk while you're writing this so we can, share ideas. Because even so right now, what are we seeing? We're seeing that people are thinking that in the future, we're going to have a lot more distance.
Do you want to?
And I totally agree with that, especially with how things went with the last pandemic that happened in the 30s. People weren't ready to leave their house for like 2 years.
Absolutely.
And cautionary is definitely, that's a very good point right there. Does anyone want to talk a little more about that? What they're worried about in particular? Any high points? And then
my thought with cautionary is it might be safe to interact with people, but I think there's also the perception of what safe is. And it's really important to acknowledge that people will be coming in at different levels, regardless of what science or fact say.
That's a good point. Slow pace, a slower pace. That's an interesting point, especially right now with families being at home. Hopefully no one's at each other's necks. Does anyone want to speak a little more about this or what this means to them personally? You don't have to have written this. It's a great way to get the words going.
Yeah, I wrote it. I just, I don't think that we're going to be able to just like jump back into it. I think this kind of relates to what someone else was saying, but like, I think what I've been hearing from some people is that, like the not commuting and then the more family time and just having more time for like being in company with each other, that some people like want to retain some of that.
Definitely, I see what you're talking about there, because even some of my coworkers right now who are working from home and have families to take care of, it's more challenging than people would even think. They're like, oh wow, now you have a kid and you're on top of work, and then you can't work normal hours, but you're with your family, and then you're realizing what's important, which is really powerful. It's almost recentering. How does that resonate with anyone else? As you can see with the dad holding his child. All right, so and then technology
I can't type much.
Oh, no worries. Share your 2
Okay.
cents.
I'm hoping for healthcare for all in the future.
Oh, yes. Such a great point.
Someone can write that for me, that'd be great.
No problem. All right. And then let's see, return to localism. Oh, that's an interesting one. Who wants to talk more about that one?
That one I was thinking just because people can't travel now, and I mean a lot of like other like typical ways that we connect or move around are now changed, that like we're forced to just look at what's in front of us and think about that a little bit more, like see who our neighbors in our neighborhood actually are and maybe talk to them, things like that that we wouldn't have done before when everything is, you know, as as Rosie was saying before, there's just everything's so fast, you never had time to think about the things that were actually right next to you.
Mm-hmm. Who else talks to their neighbors more than they ever have? I know I have. Before it was like, don't even look at me.
It is a nice change.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see what else we got here. So many great ideas. All right, home cooking. Oh man, that is number one, because number one, I don't trust anyone with my food. But man, by the end of this, we're all going to be ready for the Iron Chef challenge, right? Man, so much cooking.
Well, I find that like before, you know, just like certain herbs and stuff like cilantro, it's like I always got so much of it and it always went bad. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's 79 cents. Okay, I'll just get more. But like now I'm really trying to just like use it all and be really creative with some of the cooking. And so that's kind of my challenge to myself. I mean, in some ways I feel like I'm cooking all the time, but I also like it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way, Rosie. I'm much more aware, especially of cilantro. It's funny you bring that up, of just making sure to use it all and not let anything go to waste.
Mm.
So tell us, guys, what new cuisines you learned during this quarantine?
A lot of pesto.
I've learned that, you know, just sometimes you're going to put things together and it might not actually be very good. So like the other night I made, it was like black beans, radishes, cilantro. I mean, I just had all this stuff and it really was not very good. I had to add a bunch of salt, you know. So.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, the secret to flavor is heart disease. Yeah. So, with that being said, I'm just going to call on a few people that I haven't heard from just to get their thoughts on some of their points. Katie, what were some of your ideas here that you'd like to talk about?
I'm having trouble getting Mural to work. So
oh, no worries. Feel free to shoot something at me and I'll write it in there for you.
So I haven't added, but one of the things my colleagues and I are talking a lot about is racial equity and how can we build a new future that actually is really different from our current present, because we know that our systems are breaking and our most vulnerable community members are the ones who are experiencing most harm. And so how do we, I work in local government, so how do we flip that script? How do we build new systems that are more resilient for everyone?
And with
very good point.
With the future lens on that, do you think that with the way in which things are going, that because the injustice is so visible and can't be ignored anymore, because it's like, oh, they're hungry, like that's how ridiculous the situation is, do you think that there will be a big change or shift?
That's what we're working towards, right? Like that's part of the reason why I wanted to come to participate in this design festival, is to connect with other designers, or to think about what does our new normal look like? How do we rebuild systems to be more equitable?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think in a way of a universal basic income for everybody?
Yeah, UBI, universal healthcare, but also like how does government shift how we provide services? How do we center community more rather than like work at the municipal tower and city hall?
Absolutely. The problem with marginalized community is the hard to access to services. This is what we see. It's very hard. We think it's very easy and normal, but it is hard.
Totally. So I'm That's what I'm thinking for the future. How do we build a new normal?
It's a really good point, because we're going to have to. Because otherwise, hopefully we don't shift back to the horrible ways things were.
And it's up for us, like, especially as designers and architects, and like, it's up to us to build it, right?
Mm-hmm. We definitely see what's happening now. So I may mess up your name, Sprua. Is that right? Oh, wow.
Yes, it is right. I'm
Oh, look
still
at that.
Hello?
A point for me right there.
Yeah, you do. Actually, you get two. Most of people get it wrong, so yeah.
Would you like to talk about any dots you're added or anything we're seeing here on the board?
Well, I did add the more added pressure on digitalization in every workspace. As designers, we are liable to think about each and every kind of like community people. Some people might be more like they might have more access to the internet, appliances, devices, everything, and some people might not. But then, how would our generation make it work in such times? That is what my thought was, because now everyone is working at home and everything is shifting on their laptops and phones. So yeah.
So guys, we have 1 minute left. If anyone want to add something, please do.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the timer there.
Sure.
With that being said, what are other people's thoughts about the technology dependence? But because especially right now, like if you can't work from home, we're probably not working. Look at that. You got the board and everything.
That's an interesting thought, because I've this is sort of my first time working remote, but like I actually, and I think it's a sentiment I've heard from other people, I feel like I'm working more, like it's more intense because it's more focused. There's not those sort of natural interruptions that have happened. So at the end of the day, I actually feel like completely worn out. So I don't know what that pressure is, if it's the pressure of digitization or if it's like just not getting enough breaks in the workday. But
I feel like that's the pressure of like self-regulation. You don't have any other cues that like break up your day or anything. It's just like you. I mean, I guess for people maybe who have all their families at home, it's a different story. But yeah, it is a lot different.
Is anyone else feeling that strain? I know I am. I'm usually burnt out by 3, and I'm like, I'm gonna take a nap.
And you can, which is hard, and resist it.
Right. It's like that bed is 2 steps away.
That's so close.
Okay, guys.
I should nap with my cat.
Now we are trying to do a summary for all the thoughts that we appreciated here and gathered. So try to work on your thoughts on the board and try to cluster the close together thoughts so we can come up with unique thoughts that are collective.
Mm-hmm. And then that way, when we get to that summary section, I can talk about what we talked about a little bit today, and then we can really just share with everyone about all these things that we may think people are thinking about, but maybe they haven't. Yeah. And by the way, for the people who were able to get into a mural, how are you liking your experience so far? Hopefully it's not too complicated.
I think it's just trying to learn how to like, well, I've barely used this tool. So it's like, oh shoot, I just changed my face to a square and how do I change the color? But it's fun.
Oh, I'm glad. All right, so I'm going to kick us out of the room, and then we're going to join the other people soon. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's hidden behind everyone. There we go. Now I can stop sharing. So at the bottom right-hand corner, you will see the Leave breakout room, and that will bring you back to the main room in case me leaving doesn't do that. All right, see you guys all in the big room.
Annalie, do we have everybody back in the main space here?
It looks like there may still be a few people that haven't left, but we should have almost everyone. Yes, they are closed, so we are all
Okay.
set.
Cool. All right, so I'm screen sharing here, and then I'll also pull everybody in if you're on Mural, so you can follow along there as well. All right, so Blue Room. Let's have someone from the Blue Room share the broad strokes of your discussion.
I was trying to organize it. Some of the conversations that we had were about how time can be quite cyclical, or can have like a pattern to it where something that we might have experienced 10 years ago might have been forgotten, and then all of a sudden we're in it again. Lots of discussion about the recording of time and how it could be a photograph or a film, or how I guess like the way that we've shown history has evolved through time. And also just in general how things evolve, and how we all just have so much more time right now to spend with ourselves and in our own homes, and working less. I don't know if anyone else from my team wants to jump in.
There was also a point on how we were using our screens a lot less in the past. And the person that was, sorry, I couldn't remember who was talking about the meaning and significance. That was a good one. We should share that. Trying to remember who that was. Was that, oh yeah, Julia, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just saying, so I work a lot with meaning in my projects now, and that the past is frequently what we draw on to establish meaning and negotiate significance in the present and for moving forward as well. So it's kind of a way that we negotiate, or constantly negotiating our social contract amongst ourselves.
All right, Blue Room, thank you. Let's go to Pink. I have a clock running just so we sort of stay on time, so we don't take everybody too late. I forgot to have that running for the last one. Pink Room. Let's hear about it. That
Come
was,
on, guys.
I forgot. That was my room. Is Leanne here? She might be muted, not know it.
Come on.
One sec. Let's see here. It looks like she's locked up on her end. All right. Well, I can share, I guess. So we talked about we were talking about the present, but we sort of started getting broader than that. Talked about the idea of time, or about time, in terms of we've got fixated on time, I think, a little bit. That word and the aspect of time that is all about your personal perspective, how you feel, how you perceive things. There's also the aspect when you think about time, or time itself, how it relates to your outward awareness, your cultural sort of perceptions, those drive it. And then we also talked about, the physical measurement of time, whether you're too late, or, or literally just the measurement like a clock. There's some interesting aspects there. I'm sure I'm missing something else. Lee, or anybody else who's in the room want to add anything to that?
Sorry, I didn't click over in time from the app. I think we had a really cool discussion, and I think that we just really found out how, while diversity is unique to each one of us, unity and staying present in the moment and being mindful of each other, and that diversity is so important to moving forward in the present.
All right, it's time for the future. Okay. Right, well, anyone that was in the yellow room, feel free to speak up. I'll just give an overall summary, but I always want to hear what you guys are thinking. So it was a really great discussion because we touched on a lot of different aspects. And one of the interesting ones that I'll talk about first was where our priorities are and if that'll still keep being as it is, especially with us working from home and being surrounded by our families, is valuing that and making sure that is that going to be something we're going to still be able to do. And then because we are working from home and living, there's this lack of disconnection. So it's pretty draining. Like, but everyone can talk about it, how they feel like, oh man, I'm so exhausted after all these days. That that our lives, it feels like we're starting not to have this break or disconnection from our work-life balance. So it's like you just take one step and you're at home, and because of that, it can be quite draining. And then also, because we are working from home, this dependence on technology and how we are having to learn a lot more and use a lot more tools. And it's really starting to shape the way we work. Like, just look at us now. Like, we're using Zoom. I don't know about you guys, but I did not use this 3 months ago. And the same thing with Mural. We're adapting and we're collaborating and we're finding ways to be social beings, even though we're tied here to our homes. We're still craving that, which is pretty phenomenal. But we're also adapting, which is very human of us to do. But like the last pandemic, but like the last pandemic of the 30s, you noticed that that it took time for people to get comfortable with being out in the open again, and how that may and probably will be an issue in our future, where just because people are allowed to go back out doesn't mean they'll feel comfortable, or doesn't mean they'll even want to hug or be in some sort of close proximity anymore. Because you know what, you got that virus, and we don't want to risk it. And then, of course, there's this importance of localism, which I thought was a pretty interesting way to put it. And I'm trying to find where you are here so you can talk a little bit more about it. Are you still here? Oh, where'd he go? There you are, Nathaniel. You want to talk a little bit more about the localism?
Oh yeah, I was just put that on there because I think now that everyone's slowing down and all of our means of getting out of our usual, you would say, like, scale of your local community, that's, you can't really leave and go travel. People are forced to like see who their neighbors are, talk to them, and you're kind of like forced to sit down and think about what's in your immediate community, as opposed to everyone previously was in a fast-paced world where everyone's thinking about their next trip, their next vacation, their next business meeting that's who knows where. And I think this whole thing has forced us to really reckon with what's really around us.
And one other thing I definitely want to make sure I don't miss, and Katie, I'd love if you could speak on this point again, was about the social equity, or I guess the racial equity of this, because it's a real problem.
Yeah, just how this, like, in a positive way, we're seeing less traffic, we're seeing less congestion, we're seeing less pollution, but we're also seeing that the most vulnerable community members, community members who are already most vulnerable based on historic and structural racism, are most hardest hit by the pandemic. And so how do we rethink what our cities look like, what government looks like? And someone else had mentioned universal healthcare. We talked a wee bit about universal basic income. Like, how can we move away from a scarcity model where there's not enough wealth in our society for everyone, to a space where everyone is sheltered, where everyone has healthy food, where everyone has healthcare? How can we create a more equitable society?
That sounds really good. So I think we have concluded that our thoughts would revolve around five uh, prongs. We have the tech, the home life, the fears, the health and community, and changing our everyday life. That would sum everything.
Great. Thanks. All right. So we're going to move on to round 2.
You're on mute, Trevor.
This is the bummer about jumping between 2 windows. We're gonna move on to round 2 here. You're gonna be randomly sorted into 3 rooms again. This time in this round, we're asking whichever room you're in. So if you're in the blue room, you're gonna be responding to the blue thoughts from before or the pink thoughts before. How can design respond to sort of the concepts that were brought up in the previous round? And we've actually targeted each room with a scale: local, city, global. You don't have to stick to that, but that's just sort of meant to get the sort of ball rolling. So I think Ann Lee's going to randomize it right now, and away we'll go.
Couple seconds for everyone else to
Hey, Julia.
hello again.
Jam group last year.
Yeah. A very different environment now, but
Yes, how are you?
good. I'm doing well.
I think I see a new mustache. I don't remember that last year.
No, I had it last time.
Did you have it last time?
Yeah. This is not a quarantine.
So this might be everyone. Can everyone access Mural? I think Julia, you were having some issues before.
Could you send a link to it?
Oh, 1 second.
Sorry, I hopped on the whole meeting just now, so. Cool, thank you.
Hope to get in now.
I just sent a new link on the chat.
I didn't quite hear. We're supposed to, from our prompts we developed from the first round, is that from the first round? We're supposed to use that to address now? Is that what we're doing now? Is that right?
Yeah, so I guess just given what we responded to and then what the other rooms responded to, we're going to look at how we can respond to some of those thoughts from a local scale. So that's our focal point for this one. I'm going to do a screen share so that for those who can't access it, we can all see it together.
Let me know if you want me to do it.
One thing that comes to mind quickly is the fact that Mayor Durkin just shut down city streets that had been closed off for more access to pedestrians, and now they are permanently shut down. 20 miles of city streets I saw today. So that's a really interesting. Oh yeah, permanently.
Wow.
So that's an interesting effect, but I think that there may have been some of that in the works already. I know that they were studying Capitol Hill for to model after some Spanish promenade that they had cut city streets off to traffic. But there you go.
That's awesome.
If you want to take some time right now to come up with some ideas on some sticky notes, I'll give you a couple minutes and then we can talk about it. And if you're having issues, feel free to just put it in the chat and then we'll put it in for you.
Okay, we have about a minute left. I don't know if anybody would like to share something that they've written or an idea that they had.
Do you want us to share now or once the minute is up?
I think when the minute is up, we're going to be going back to the bigger room.
I see. Well, I was thinking, I just thought how many small businesses, you know, basically some of them had to innovate pretty quickly. And I do think that some of those businesses may retain some of those efforts. And I think that's, you know, I've just seen that locally. I'm not sure about nationally if that's happened. Oh, dang.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think from what I understand, it's been happening kind of everywhere, but I definitely have friends who are shop owners here that are feeling a very large strain and aren't sure if they're going to come back from it. So yeah, that's a good idea. It's a really good point.
I come from the performance art world, and there has been a real shift in streaming all of your performance. So that is a lifeline right now for my world.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts before?
Let's see. I think there were a couple people waiting there, but I think we're ready to go here. So I'm going to share my screen again, just like last time, so those who don't have access to the mural can still see it. Hopefully y'all can see here. So we are in the pink room. We are going to look at how design can respond to sort of the thoughts that were brought up in round one. For recap, in round one, the pink room was talking about time as it related to yourself, but also as it related to your outward perspective. So
are we only answering this in terms of city scale?
we don't have to. We put those in there initially as a prompt. If that brings something up, sure. If you've got another idea that doesn't necessarily fit within that, let's add it in here anyway. Anything goes. But we could think of it at a local or that sort of locality if it's easier for folks. Anyone have anything? I know George has lots of thoughts on how design.
Yeah. I like the way of thinking about design as part of researching for why a task exists. And as all of the problems we kind of see, it's related to if a good design based on someone's own research, exhaustive research, and making decisions based on that, which means that you have to dive in, understand the reasons, the origins of that problem, and that thinking, which is part of design research, actually apply to everything what we do in life. And if we would apply it, decision make based on our research, we would make much better decisions. But just like design has to grow up and then still has to improve to cover these basic lines of doing your own research and making decisions based on that. Design used to be just like any other profession for profit. But now we know that design is much higher level of thinking about a task. And so I think design would be a way of we can solve all our problems.
You know, I'm thinking about this esoteric aspect that George and I both share. and thinking about the aspect of a yoga practice that's sustained, and the practice, and the fact that you're consulting yourself, you're going inward, you're processing your own decisions. And so I would say consultation it might be one, because it's something that applies to your individual self and also to your clients or to your community, because you're consulting them about their different perspectives, your programming, your workshopping, you're sharing, you're collaborating. Yeah. And that's so important though, because in having, for example, an Ashtanga practice that's generally anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, generally, you are going deep into yourself to find out what may be your own barriers to biases or things towards yourself or towards other people. Ahimsa is the first thing, kindness. And that's the hardest thing that people have problems with, is kindness towards themselves. And when they're not kind to themselves, they're unkind to other people. That impacts social justice. So yeah, having a barometer to be able to consult with yourself is very important, to checking in, to reminding yourself of the humanity that we all share, because that's what this is about, is sharing an experience and being present. But I think when maybe certain people don't have an athletic practice, that is usually the most challenging way. Religious scripts are good too, but to combine those, it's very powerful.
Other thoughts from the group?
I'd say honor. That's something that has come up in a lot of different discussions that I've been in, honor and integrity, and that is a universal thing. And no matter how you develop it, it's something you can always reach towards, and it can always be improved. So, you're honoring yourself, you're honoring your clients, your community, and you are most usually trying to also honor their cultural differences. I think that's part of the reason social equity is so horrific in certain areas of the country, and for different races and different minorities. There's 36 different types of Asians, but Oregon generally thinks Native Americans are Indians, so I won't go any further on that. But you can see where it's problematic when real diversity is not really discussed, especially amongst minorities between themselves. So I think that's a big problem that we need to try to solve.
Yeah, we have equity, problem solving, design is improvement. I guess improvement is sort of an issue thing, but let me check. Yeah, ways in which design can be about our own awareness, our own personal perspective.
Tools. We're using digital tools. We're using spiritual tools for means of mindfulness. We're using sociology tools because we're dealing with psychology in our programming and space. So tools.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, design can craft better without providing the solution, can provide better ways that you can get at the solution.
Connection. That's the most important part of all of this. If we don't connect with each other, if we don't connect with different demographics in the society in order to understand their needs and then create the solution, then we're just dictating, and that's not connection.
Let's think about it here. Let's use the city scale thing for a second. So within the terms of the city, the scale of a city, this in versus the scale of your neighborhood, what can design or designers do to address equity, to problem solve?
I'd say kindness, is the first thing. Okay. I am an ethnic person, and there's not a lot of Indian people around, and I've lived all over the world. But the biggest part of the problem that I see when people are not aware of their own biases or their lack of cultural awareness or their own self-awareness that causes other behaviors that are negative is that there's a lack of kindness. And it's such a simple concept, but there's a reason why it's the first yama. It's so easy to break. And when that kindness is recognized in another person, you're more willing to help them. You're willing to connect with them and relate and share and collaborate.
So if we're talking about tangible things, physical things, I mean, just having spaces for expression, for allowing people to make marks, allowing people to have their voice heard in a way that is democratic as possible. I mean, I'm trying to think how do we take concepts and then make them, how does that translate into a thing or a space or something that's more tangible? I think that's where I'm stuck right now.
Some things that I'm like,
sorry.
Some things. Oh.
Go ahead, Leah.
Charrette, that's what we're doing, and that's a real core process of the design process, is of getting together and throwing ideas around. That is the most tangible thing. We're doing it right now, even though we're not physically together.
Go ahead, Leah.
Some things that I was thinking about, like in terms of like tangible things on the city scale, are like the murals that have been popping up around Capitol Hill on like boarded up storefronts, or like something that would allow people to know how populated like a park is, to be like, okay, I'm gonna go to this park because I know this, like Cal Anderson is full right now due to quarantine, like things that, you know, will allow communities to kind of, I don't know, disperse in a good, equitable way.
Art.
Information
We're all
sharing.
artists. Yeah, art connects us.
I think that falls under this one.
All right, do we have everybody here?
I'd say let's give them like a minute or so, but either way, we can probably get going already. No reason to wait. Well, thank you guys. You guys are joining Team Yellow, or Team Awesome, as I like to say.
It's the future.
Exactly. So on our last area, so let me know if you can see my screen, or if you can't. Actually, it's more important. So on the left, I'm showing what we talked about before, and the way in which we can respond to that in a more global scale, and that's definitely because things are changing in many different ways. So with the highlights being tech, home life, health and community, fear, and change in our everyday life, how do we think that design can respond to these factors? Quite intimidating.
I think currently, traditionally, architecture is considered as a kind of local scale profession, and I think now it can be much more global with, you know, people sitting in different corners of the world and coordinating on a building. I know people do it still, but it can be much more bigger now. And I also feel with the same idea, SDF can be much more global and not just Seattle based.
That's very true, because that was actually something that resonated a lot with us. We were like, well, if we go digital, it's not just Seattle, it's everything. So it's interesting because we still call it the Seattle Design Festival, where really anyone can participate. And that's such a really great point, because even now, for example, I'm working on a project in Portland and I'm not traveling down there. And some of my friends are working on projects overseas, or who knows where the business is picking back up, and they're adapting and are more agile than ever. It's a really great point.
Yeah, my main job is on the East Coast right now.
There you go. Wow,
So-
look at that. We belong to each other. That's an interesting idea there. I don't know if you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, I dropped that one in there. That one I think was kind of about I have a couple other ones on like designing for interconnection, and I think the fact that the pandemic has disrupted so many supply chains, we're seeing just how much that's affecting us, both people like in China and people over here. And I think in response to that and in the future, and especially when we're talking about like some of the stuff around racial equity, there needs to be, people need to realize more and more how their, I think, designs affect people that they don't normally see, and that there is that kind of interconnection that people need to, I think, empathize with more.
That's a really great point. Especially with our designers all working from home nowadays, it makes it more present than ever that we're so interconnected. Co-creation. Well, that's hitting the nail on the head right there. Ever put that one down? I'd love to hear more about that.
That was also one I threw in there. As I guess it also ties to the other thing that I threw in, is just that in order to like design for other people and design for more interconnection, you need to invite those people's opinions and bring them into the process. And that's something that a lot of designers and architects stereotypically fail to do, is bring other people to the table to see like what their actual problems are and how design can solve them.
Especially now with so many issues not really affecting as many people as we think. There's a lot of localized problems that aren't being addressed. And with this ability of being more digital, it'll be a way for people to participate more. All right. So now I'm going to call on a few random people to see what are some of your thoughts and what are your thoughts there. All right, Sarah, pressure's on you. When it comes to this topic about global and some of our issues.
Is this just because I can't see all the participants? As a Sarah, I know I'm usually not the only Sarah. Is this me, Sarah?
You are the only Sarah.
Oh, I think that's special.
Like a Twilight Zone episode. World with one Sarah.
Yeah, so this guy over here is mine. I've just always been fascinated by this fact I heard somewhere and believe that our brains are kind of good at chunking, 7 digits in our short-term memories, and similarly, we're able to kind of handle about 100 relationships with people, about 150, 100. And that kind of is like the natural group of a so-called human tribe. And when you get beyond that, we can understand larger groups of people, but also it can get very abstract. So to truly think global or to do global initiatives or things like that, it just always strikes me as something that's kind of difficult for us to do and to really grasp the idea that that's the case. But also, most of us nowadays don't really have like a local community or a local tribe of like 100, 150 people. So we end up feeling quite like we're missing something, like we're very isolated because we don't have the richness of those relationships. So thinking globally, but can we think globally in such a way that everyone is able to have let's just say 100 for simplicity's sake, a full 100 rich relationships in their lives? That's one part of that. And the other part of it is, how do you think in terms of larger numbers of that? How do you think in terms of larger communities when we are a little bit blocked? And then this is also mine because I play a lot of Animal Crossing and been having more and more friends who are actually inviting other people to social events in that universe and in Minecraft and building things and getting really excited about their little micro-urban planning.
It's such an interesting point there, because it's when you're indoors so much, it's a great way to start to socialize. Like I know for me, you know, I seem like a chatty Cathy. I only got that way through online gaming and talking to hundreds and hundreds of people. You start to learn how to connect, which is really true, and it's a great way for people to still have that socializing aspect in their life while they can't step outside. All right. So I see a few new faces that we didn't see in our yellow group here. Miranda, I'd like to get your thoughts on
Yeah, I just joined the call. I'm sorry, like 5 minutes ago.
the. No
So
worries.
I get a little bit lost, like how to use this. Even at our office we have, but I've never used it. So what I'm trying to say here, like, you know, when we say do globally, I think we also try to connect, like this is very broad, right? We connect with different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, how, you know, we become, you know, like this, what we are facing right now, this pandemic, this is globally, right? Like also around the world. So how we, I think somehow even like we see ourselves, you know, like from different culture, how we connect with others, right? So this is the time, you know, I feel like everyone could feel the same, you know, even different culture. We are all like having this problem all together.
That
So
is
that's
so
my
true.
thought there.
Yeah. So it's such a hard thing, and even to try to put a solution to it. But with us realizing how interconnected we are, and with our lives being so different, like it seems like this digital connections are really a way in which to connect these bonds that normally won't be there. But what are some other ways in which we think that people could be collaborating or talking or starting to get to know each other a bit more? I know there's always random chat rooms. Those seem to be growing every day.
That's true.
Well, I'd love to hear more from you, Hannah. That we got to hear a little bit from you in the beginning.
Sorry, there's a really noisy bus outside. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about connecting people globally.
Yes.
Actually, that's like my project right now. And I think that there's so many platforms that like we could be using.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
And like, but I think that like people need to, design can help people find reasons to connect with each other, because like there's so many platforms for connecting. Like there's so many ways we can connect, but it's about like finding a reason to, on top of everything else. So I like right now I am trying to like encourage a group of people to use Snapchat before like a Zoom meeting as a way to like
All right, everyone should be joining us.
I wasn't watching the clock. Sorry, to my room.
Everyone should be back with us.
All right. I'm going to share my screen again here. Alrighty, so we're in round 2. Hopefully everybody can see this. I will also summon on Mural, so you're all pulled to that part. So our each room was challenged to respond to the thoughts from round 1. So we're going to start with the blue room, which had the charge of local scale, but not necessarily. Stuck to it. Go for it, blue room. Who was our facilitators in blue?
Me, sorry, I was getting lost in my computer. We didn't have a whole big chance to discuss everything that's written down on here, but some of the main concerns were just how small businesses are going to be affected by this, how artists are affected by this, and the types of things that can be done to really bolster community spirit and try and uplift people in the best way that they can. So there was talk about streaming, there's talk about pickup services, drive-throughs, and then also there was a point that was made that it was announced today by the mayor that some streets are going to be shut down for cars and open to pedestrians only, and how that could be a really interesting opportunity for design.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to
Yeah,
add.
are there any other final thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I think, hi everyone, Andy. I think that like what's interesting about this, about the local scale, just looking at everything that's here, is that like there's obviously a lot of focus now turning towards the arts and community, where in the past, like historically, it's not been so much so, like a lot of funding, a lot of support, a lot of thoughts. But now people are finding feeling like a greater need to find ways to connect with those around you. Because I think like social isolation is a bad name for people, because people actually think they actually have to socially isolate. And what's shown through here is that there's a lot of love and care to give within your community, and there's a lot of need within the community as well. And there's a lot of need for creative outlets, for necessities to be met, like drive-throughs and food for the community, performances for the creative and for the soul, for having a sense of community, but also a sense of novelty and excitement from those around you. And also the closing of the roads just shows like to focus more on pedestrian and like local engagement with beyond your walls, but still giving enough space to be safe. I think that's a interesting thing that we like with the VR augmented reality, the local performances, both like we have a performance artist on our team, and they touched upon how it's like these local and virtual performances are the lifeblood of a lot of the local artists in the area, and even virtual artists, which is kind of great. So maybe, I don't know, the global team is going to touch upon that, but that's just like some interesting things about that I noticed, at least.
Cool, thanks. Let's move on to the pink room. Pink, I'm gonna nominate someone to talk about this. Let's see who is in there. Matt, you were following along. Do you want to be our share? You're muted. Oh, there you go. You're still muted somehow.
Double mute.
No, nothing. All right, don't worry about Matt. We'll move on to who else is there? Lee, I remember you were in the room. Do you want to share for us?
Yeah, I think we talked pretty like high level about some concepts. I think in the beginning, George talked about how he thinks design can create better tools, and kind of just viewing the motivations for designing stemming from like the situation and talking. We talked about asking your community like their needs and being like in communication with them. And we talked about information sharing when it comes to like on a city scale, maybe if for people to know like, okay, I know that this park is very crowded, but so I know that I should go to this other park to hang out instead. And having a lot of spaces for expression for public art. And I thought of the murals that have been popping up on like boarded up storefronts, and just kind of like, yeah, things on that city-wide scale.
Great. Let's do one more. We'll do the yellow room.
Okay. Well, I'll start getting the ball rolling for the yellow group. It was a great conversation because we were with the whole idea of global. There are these big things that are becoming more evident than ever, especially right now. So that being connection and how interconnected we all are all around the globe. And it could just be through design or through our economy or through all the different, well, pretty much everything. But there's also this importance of realizing this groundingness of like our local tribe, that even though this is making us more global creatures by having us be able to be so agile and working from home and being able to work anywhere really, that we still need to have this connection in the 100 tribe, which I thought was such a great way to put it. In that we could be having real connections with about 100 people. But once you get past that point, it starts to really change the way in which you view things. And with us being so interconnected in this way, it's really going to change how it is that we approach collaboration, working, or even socializing, because we're noticing new platforms popping up everywhere where people are playing games together, creating virtual environments, and really making things their own, even though they're still stuck at home, which is pretty amazing, I think. So this whole idea of creating and making together is amazing. But there's also the whole thing of, even though we live in our local environments, that we're still connecting to our world in some way. And I'd love to, because Hannah, I know you got cut off there at the end. So sorry about that. I'd love to have you finish your thoughts there that you were having and share it with the group.
Oh, thanks. Just that, like all of the platforms and opportunities for us to connect globally are there. I don't, and where I think design can help, if we're looking for places where design can help, is helping like give reasons for people to connect in ways that they might not otherwise find themselves. And so somebody earlier mentioned like global artists and creatives, and I think that there's like a lot of connectivity happening between those people right now, because there's a lot of reason for global artists and creatives to connect, as well as like medical professionals. And I think we can be thinking about how design can like really lower the barriers for people connecting and help people find reasons to connect that they might not otherwise find, that can have like really huge global impacts.
And Miranda, I'd love to have you put your 2 cents in here as well, because you brought up such a great point about the whole globalization.
So, because of the technology, I think we can also share and learn with different culture. Somehow, we can use design as to how to connect globally with different culture, how we share with others. That's my thought.
And that's Team Yellow. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we are on to our final round here. And then after that, we'll, of course, do some Q&A about the festival proper. I'm sure some of you have questions. But so our final round here, we're going to start getting a little more real. We're not necessarily asking what you would do for the festival, but we want you to think about this we've been high level. Now we want to talk about literally what is the armature of these high level ideas. What is the concept that we can implement today, or the thing we can do today, whether it's a program or an object or a piece of work. So we're going to divide this round into two halves. You're going to have 20 minutes total. I would recommend each room spend about 10 minutes sort of whittling down your ideas. And then the latter half of it, spend that time illustrating it. We're going to draw that in your box here. So hopefully there's someone in each room who's willing to wield the pen, or we can collectively do that. And at this point, we're not going to have 3 rooms. We're going to just have 2. The blue room will be focused on virtual concepts. So everything we've learned before, what is a virtual idea that we can craft as a proposal? And the pink room will be talking about that physically. What is a physical thing? Basically, virtual, we can think of what is an online idea. Pink is what is an in real world idea. Hopefully that's somewhat clear. And I'll have a timer running for this one, so we're stay on task. I think we're ready to go, Emily.
Hey everyone. Hey again, Julia. Yeah, so I don't know if you have any questions in regards to the virtual room, but and I don't know if you've already started to think about what you might want to present for the Seattle Design Festival. But if it is the virtual realm, this is kind of the area that you could flesh out some ideas and get some feedback, and we can come up with a single concept.
Lisa, I have a question.
Sure.
Are they supposed to translate from virtual to physical world, or
it doesn't have to? It can. Okay. And right now we're fleshing out ideas. So if you do have something that touches in both worlds, feel free to talk about it.
I need to go back and look at the ideas again.
So I guess we could take about 5 minutes to come up with your own ideas, and then we can synthesize a single idea.
Lisa, George, I just came from the pink room because Yassi had to leave. So could you tell me just very briefly, like, what is our task? See, I was focusing on a pink room, and then so I kind of missed exactly what is the concept here.
So it's design within the virtual realm, and we're just coming up with some ideas for the virtual stream, and right now we're just kind of fleshing out some ideas, and then in a few minutes we'll get together and we'll talk about them and then synthesize it into one main idea.
Okay, I just pay attention. Thanks.
Lisa, when you say virtual stream, is that how it's presented? Is it in a pre-recorded stream? Is it live? Can it be an URL? That's
it's
dynamic.
Open-ended. It can be like a live stream. It could be something that's pre-recorded. Yeah, the sky's the limit.
Static website that somebody can go and interact with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, when I say stream, I'm just talking about like there's the physical and the virtual, so the two prongs of the festival, not necessarily like live streaming, but yes, what Michelle was saying, it could be anything.
Oh, am I on mute? No. Just a logistical question with that. So if it's something virtual, like, will it all be on the Seattle Design Festival site? Like I'm just trying to figure out like how people access virtual.
So the way that we have it set up currently is that the Seattle Design Festival provide links to whatever project it is that you're creating. So you can choose whatever platform you're more comfortable with. If it's something you want to do on YouTube or on Instagram or on Facebook, you would just have to send us the link and give us that information, and then we'll host it and publicize it.
And don't be afraid to put down whatever right now. Any idea that comes to mind is there's no wrong or right answers to this. So
If there's anyone that's struggling with using Mural, if you want to just tell me, and I'd be happy to record your thoughts on the post-it so we've got that documented. I know it's kind of hard to navigate two different platforms at once, so if there's someone who'd rather just actually say what you're thinking, I'm more than happy to type it into a post-it for you.
Have anybody seen the isolation or shelter in place photos of certain photographers? Like in Seattle, there's can't remember his name, who's taking quarantine photos of people just in their windows in their homes and framed out, and they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous, and probably happening around the world.
I haven't seen for Seattle, but I have a friend who's a photographer in Montreal who's been doing that. She's been taking portraits of people from their porches. It's been a really lovely project to see.
feel free to share any links as well in the chat.
I think something else that could be interesting to explore is if you have a larger design project that might be coming into final stages next year, but you're in the middle of your design process, is there a way to share the design process in those stages in a virtual way to engage the festival audience? That's something that I've been hearing a lot from the people that I've had conversation with, and I'm interested if you guys think that there's value in being transparent about design thinking and design process with the general public and also our peers.
Feedback, is that the goal?
It could be feedback, especially if you're looking to engage the community in co-design. Like, is this an opportunity to engage community in co-design virtually since we can't gather together? It could also just be, maybe it's sharing the actual process with people who might not think of design as a career path. I know that's one of the festival goals, is just to share exactly what design is with people who may not know that that is something that they can do.
Can I expand on this a little bit? Since I think that's the most powerful thing we can do if we somehow, there's a lot of teaching out there, workshop about design, but what is very obvious from the teams I work with and then my experience is that if you have some curiosity driven experience, so someone who sees that, they intrigued by how it was made, or the story, or the looks, or something, which curiosity will ignite their design research. They want to find out how, without really teaching. I think that's the best way to embed in people's mind the way of thinking of design is basically the research. And that's done very well at simple ways when you have like two well-known functions or objects combined to a new format. That's really drives people on a very basic level because, they know both. And just an example, like a windsurfer, there was a surfboard and there was a sailboat sail. They put it together. Or a Rubik's Cube, their box or square and round. It's very intriguing, and it makes people think very, very, very similarly how a well done research design is done. Basically, dig into and do your own work, not relying on necessarily like a lecture. And I think if we use the design projects we have to embed that little spark, I think that's will teach much more efficiently than basically just talk all the already available information, because there is fantastic works done about design research and design thinking and all things. But I think if we think of like some project which approach it from the other end, how we think, what we like to do, and we like to be curious. We skip work just to do something research on our own. So that's my little thought, that we could actually embed these little sparks to start the way of thinking, and then people would do their research, their work, and nothing can replace that, the self-drive.
Lee, I know that that you had mentioned performance art earlier, and I mean, if you are thinking about going down the virtual route, you could, I mean, just as an example, like think about how you could use a certain virtual platform and how you can engage, your audience.
I was, my business was part of the Capitol Hill Arts Streaming Festival, which engaged Northwest Film Forum and all the arts organizations up there. I have one myself. And so we pre-recorded, I had 3 bands play and perform, and it's really hard to draw people to that, to be honest. And it's a new experience, and for performance art, it's necessary, but it's a hard draw. And you would think it might not be, because people just have that access, but.
Is it acceptable or possible to kind of have projects come out of the festival? What I'm wondering is, like, could we use the festival to have participants or guests contribute to a project. So like they contribute a photograph and maybe they arrange it, and then so it becomes kind of this project that builds on itself, but then it becomes the project at the end. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, it's like a collaboration, like a piecework. Yeah.
I'm thinking like there's what is that? The sound trap, you know, where people can make music collaboratively, and I'm thinking like doing something like that could be interesting, where people come in whenever they want and contribute to the piece of music, and then at the end of the festival you have this piece of music, you know, that could be shared out as an artifact.
These are the ideas that we're looking for the Seattle Design Festival. And we understand that circumstances are very different this year, and so we're encouraging ideas where people can collaborate together or build on each other's pieces, you know, and really think conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Interactivity would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting just to see when there is no conductor in a way, you know, in a sense, what happens, kind of organic.
And let it just kind of grow organically. Definitely.
Yeah, like where it's coming from my mind is that kind of improv game where like somebody says one line, you know, and then the next person says the line for the next place. So you could do that with lots of different things, verbally, musically, artistically.
Why don't we build on this idea? We have 4 minutes, and we need to present one idea.
Telephone, yeah. But maybe there's an FTP that you can upload, and it's some weird random code that arranges them. Maybe it subtracts all the negative space. I don't know, you know, like, and then layers it.
Exquisite Corpse, or like that game that you have where like one person draws the head and then the other person draws the shoulders, and like it keeps building until you've got this like crazy creature.
I think that could be really fun.
That's similar to what I was thinking too, just kind of continuously building on the last person's idea.
Yeah, we could draw that if we have to draw something.
Who's interested in drawing? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say last year for our project, we kind of had a real world station that did this. We invited the public, because we were kind of dealing with, one of the things we were dealing with in our project was the skyline of Seattle, right? And how it's changing so rapidly. And we invited people to draw as a real world interaction the skyline they'd like to see. But it would be interesting to even do that, like, especially if it's the past, present, future idea about what, you know, their favorite version of Seattle skyline, past, present, or future, and then do a time lapse at the end or something.
How do I get the drawing tools in Mural?
Say what?
How do I get the drawing tool in Mural?
It should be on the left. There should be a bar with a pen.
There's no. Okay. Oh, okay, there it is.
Michelle, I know you're Canadian. Do you call that thing a keys, cadaver a keys or something?
Yeah, it would be a cadaviki. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My boss is Canadian, and we did this mail thing where we exchanged between 3 people. Like you got one panel, and then it was mailed off to someone who got another panel.
Oh.
She called it that, and I was like, oh, can't.
Yeah. Yep. That's. I had to Google it because I didn't know what it was in English.
It's super fun to do my mail if you have some friends that like to draw.
Yeah, that's something I've actually been thinking about doing just kind of on my own time. I just bought a whole bunch of postcards that you can draw on, and I'm just going to send friends weird drawings and see what happens. Yeah.
Love that. I gotta go turn the oven off 1 second.
So who is drawing right now?
I drew the head.
Okay. Okay. Are we doing an exquisite corpse?
Yeah.
Typically, you want to see what the other people are drawing, but in this case,
Can you guys see what I'm drawing? I don't know if it's showing up. I'm drawing something in the hand.
who's looking at Jay? Oh, thought it was a joint.
It could have been. Drawing a flower.
Guys, I'm gonna hop off to eat some pizza, but Exquisite Corpse looks great, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, Julia. Is there anyone in this room that is thinking about doing something virtually? Okay.
I'm gonna have to hop off too. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Did we just get more time?
I think they were extending it until 7:40, although now we're getting really close to 7:40. So I don't know if it's been extended. Unclear. Someone needs to draw the feet or draw the end if there is an end.
I'll give her some shoelaces.
It's really weird. I can't see everything that is on your screen. There's like missing information.
Interesting.
Like the whole body is not visible on my screen.
That's interesting.
I don't know who's drawing on the bridge, but there are some, looks like to me, paragliders on the bridge. What was the idea there?
Oh, that's the other room.
That's the other room, yeah. But I'm sure we will find out very soon what the idea is.
Oh, so I get a wrong screen on? No.
All right. So this is Blue Room, and we are talking about virtual ideas.
We're Pink Room. We're
Pink? Wait, did I get sent to Pink? Oh, yes. No, I've been Pink all along. Sorry. I don't even know where I am. Pink, yes. Let me screen share for those who don't have access to Mural. All right, here we are. So we are talking about what could physically, what is a physical element of design based upon what we've talked about previously about time.
Murals, absolutely. We covered the whole city in murals before I left Norfolk, and we have a huge art festival called Neon, and there's a neon district, and it's because the Chrysler Museum's there, and there's all the glasswork, so absolutely, murals.
Great, murals. Other ideas? Let's hear them. It's no bad ideas at this point.
I've been thinking or trying to imagine. I don't know what would be feasible, but here we are brainstorming. Do-it-yourself Internet of Things devices that that people can build in their own houses. Like if you've ever seen those dolls or those lamps, like if somebody touches the lamp in one location, then it lights up the lamp in some other location. IoT devices like that kind of blend like physical and virtual a little bit.
STEM programs.
Other things. Feel free to be as specific as we want here.
Montessori methods that goes in with that. It's real hands-on. It's very creative for all people.
I was just thinking about this opportunity of like how physical environments are changing. So, now there's in the city of Seattle a bunch of street that's for pedestrians, and what kind of opportunities could be there for either some sort of installation art or just like really using the like gained physical environment. Even I'm thinking like this would be crazy, but like the West Seattle Bridge is closed to traffic, but like how awesome would that be if an artist came? I mean, the city would not allow this, but like did artwork on the bridge. So just like really utilizing like the free space that's been acquired.
Love it.
Like floor chalk murals, that like a big festival of chalk murals.
Yeah, like you could delineate the actual street that's supposed to be for pedestrians with like paintings on the ground or whatever.
Yeah, it's called a guerrilla lane painting.
I think like scavenger hunts also fall into this category.
Scavenger hunts.
Or even like Easter egg hunt type deals where you're just looking for it's like the teddy bears in the windows kind of deal. Or geocaching.
Yeah, let's see. Socially distanced events is this that wording sort of fits. The scavenger hunt thing is sort of the program, the wider program we have for the festival, and that gets into the same, I think, language we've used there, is where we talked about ways to have an event that people are all part of, but like you don't all have to be there at the same time. And that's scavenger hunt is one of those ideas of like you're all sort of in the thing and doing the thing, but you're not necessarily all in a room, you know. Which sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Hannah.
There's a big comedy outfit like in Norfolk, for example, and they've been doing virtual comedy things, and the guy was a real famous actor on, oh gosh, I don't remember, but Terry, he's on it all the time, and so it's really cool to see them doing virtual comedy events and poetry readings and things like that.
I'm really liking this culture of like bartering, like where, okay, I'm gonna bake you bread. I feel like the Buy Nothing group really emulates this, but like, hey, I'll make you some bread if you have like this thing. And I think that there could be really amazing opportunities with like an exchange of goods. I'm not quite sure what that would look like, but like this thing where you're like, hey, I have this thing and you have this thing that I want. I don't know if it's bartering, but I just really, I'm loving this, like this sort of exchange of like, oh, I have something you want and you have something I want. And I feel like that could be a great opportunity for design too.
Piggybacking off of that, a friend of mine did something called a non-object exchange one time, where they did this physically, but you could kind of do it without actual contact, where teach someone a skill, or like to make someone something, or something that isn't directly giving a gift in exchange for something else. So it was like you teach someone how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and they would like 3D print you something or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a non-object exchange.
There we go. Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say.
Well, I think it's both, right? There's a non-object, but then there's also
also the bartering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that bartering in you know, like the idea that like there's all this stuff is available, but like it's like so like try to find a webcam right now, and it's like somebody probably has 4 dead ones in their house, but you can't buy one anywhere because everybody went and grabbed them. So that idea of like there's supply chains broken, but like the stuff's still around, you know. It's just an aspect of like getting the excess stuff.
I also love this like notion of like where people are like visiting their grandparents, but through like the window, and like just that idea of like holding hands against glass. There's just something visually beautiful about that. And I don't know what that's called, but it's like you're still connected. There's just a barrier there.
Yeah. I tried a shot at writing that out there. I'm not sure the right way to put that, but yes, there's, you know, I mean, you can think of that in the grocery store too, the plexiglass shields and stuff. Have cropped up in like separation, but without trying to eliminate separation.
Or there's I forget what it's called, but like there's a bunch of these all over where there's like 2 big dishes that are like really far apart from each other, but the way the dishes are focused, like if you sit in them and talk quietly, you can hear each other really well because of the way it like reflects off of them. So like people could like have a normal conversation, but like really far apart from each other.
Yeah. What is that thing called? It's at the Children's Museum.
Yeah. A bunch of children's science museums have them.
Is it like an echo? What's it called?
I thought they were called whisper plates. I looked these up a while ago.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
It kind of reminds me of like that playground thing where like, you know, that tube that goes underground and you can like hear each other really well. I mean, those are connected by a pipe, but like still it's kind of that same thing.
This is going to sound, I'm defining that broadly as intimacy with physical distance, but that hopefully that doesn't. I'm using intimacy as a broad term. Yeah, I guess Mike wasn't part of that one, but the other group I'm in, we've literally done that installation of pipe and we were 3 floors apart and trying to connect the sounds. In our case, it didn't work very well, but there's some physics issues with it. Other ideas. We could go for another minute of wild ideas, and let's see if anything kind of comes out of this that we can share as our one big idea.
Someone in
So
the
far,
previous round
okay.
also mentioned like posters or some sort of exhibits of the history of different spaces, and that could include like, you know, the Denny Regrade or the original Duwamish villages. Like that could expand a lot about history and could be really interesting to pull together.
Yeah, if you had something like the murals that are on the storefronts, but if the mural was like a depiction of what the storefront used to be, like in Capitol Hill and Auto Row, like the mural could be like the actual like what used to be like an auto shop.
And like the Wing Luke Museum has some great history tours of just that neighborhood, and if like how could we support them in creating physical, like bringing that to life so that people can see that as well.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that's big into geocaching. I don't really know much about it, but I know it's about scavenger hunting and using location points, so that might be something for good tech nerds.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Africa Town did something kind of similar, but like what would the future of the Centralist District look like?
I'm leaving couch surfing on there though. Yeah, geocaching. I was like geocaching. I've never heard it referred to like that. Geocaching is definitely the word really. One thing I thought was interesting is like the restaurants around town now. Everything, you don't go into the space anymore. It's like the space is this unused thing behind the window, and you walk up to the front door and they've like plexiglass the front door, and you interact there, and then behind them is like this whole laid out thing. There's something interesting about sort of, even if it's not boarded up, sort of still illustrating or understanding what was there before, which could be for a while, right? You know, like depending on how the phases work.
I was gonna say really quick, I'm also thinking about just like experiences where someone could be at a distance, but they're like a bubble machine or something, where they're experiencing it from a distance and they're physically like interacting with whatever the object is, and it's kind of more an immersive experience, but not necessarily like virtual reality. Like there's sound, or there's some sort of item that I'm just thinking of a bubble machine, honestly, but you know, something that people can or like paint. I don't know. I'm just thinking like something to immerse themselves where they can do it on their own. So maybe it's just immersive art or something.
I get where you're saying. I love the bubble machine. Also, I was thinking of like light installations, because there's a lot of really
cool, something like that.
Portland, you know, like all different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And walkie-talkies. Don't forget those.
Yeah.
Experiences, yeah, walkie-talkies. Let's throw that over here. Isn't that the brand name, how you spell it? Let's see, do we have anything that's sort of, we've got a bunch of stuff about sort of the new public space and you know, capturing that public space as artwork or as experience. I think of that, the West Seattle Bridge as a big installation is the most eye-catching of those ideas.
Ooh, kayak tours. I went on a phenomenal kayak tour so many times on the Columbia River. So yeah, totally.
That would go, let's see, nature maybe. And then we've got this idea of programming sort of distanced concepts, like this one with the tangible connection but barriers, or scavenger hunts where you're in a place but not all together. Geocaching fits under that. I'll put my couch surfing over here. The walkie-talkie.
Bike riding. I know
Bike.
there's naked bike riding and there's normal bike riding too.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that with the right-of-way stuff for the moment. Light art, put in the middle. Murals probably fall within that. I'm gonna move virtual comedy to the virtual board. Immersive experiences, that's somewhere in the middle still. Pedestrian streets over here. Sound reflection discs are physical but distanced. History of closed spaces is probably physical but distanced. And then we've got this other thing, these sort of bartering things. Those are sort of outside of. I'm going to go this one over here.
Oh, this is a yogic thing. Satsang. I mean, there's a lot of my colleagues and friends all over the world that are holding satsangs together. DJ Dre is just a big one, for example. So get virtual get-togethers. Oh, that's virtual.
Yeah, that's virtual. Yeah.
Like you could do it in the park or something.
True. I think that falls under there. We'll put that here. All right. So we've got, I think, 2-3 big windows here. I don't know how we want to narrow this down and who we want to draw.
Should we put the immersive experiences like in the kind of light experiences and all of that? Because it seems like that would go.
Yeah, where did I put light?
I think
stuff?
you put
Maybe
it, yeah.
I put it here. That might go sort of in that range. I could also turn on voting here, and we could just click some and then try to run with that.
Wait, so we're supposed to draw.
We're going to have one proposal that we're going to present to the entire group.
Okay.
That is our big design idea from this. And I'm going to let Annalee know to give us a few more minutes here.
Well, should we just vote, or like should we just say what we're thinking?
Just say what you're thinking. I think that's easier than the vote thing, which will make everybody in the room.
I mean, honestly, I say go big. Let's take over the West Seattle Bridge.
That was what I wanted to.
I think that's the most eye-catcher. It's a big, simple idea.
Yes,
and then we can talk about this other aspects here. Okay, so who is feeling comfortable drawing? I can bust out the iPad here, but I would rather one of you do.
Draw a picture of a unicorn and we're covered.
Let's see here. We can also use
nominate
images.
someone who has a mouse because doing it on my touchpad is impossible.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
I have so much trouble. Yeah.
Oh, with the touch, yeah, with the trackpad. Yeah, I'll bet that's.
Yeah, with the trackpad.
Yeah, who's got the mouse skills?
I might have the mouse skills, but I definitely do not have the drawing skills. It will end up like a line.
That's all good.
Is there anyone who wants to do it?
I'll start.
Oh, okay, there we go.
But let's. I don't remember what the West Seattle Bridge even looks like anymore.
I don't know. There, yeah, that's. You can draw a big crack in there.
If somebody, you can actually add images. If somebody has an image on their computer of the West Seattle Bridge, we can like sort of draw on top of it. So what is the art on the bridge? Like, are we talking about maybe the lane? Maybe it's from above. It's sort of the, it's the,
yeah, like if a helicopter went over it, you'd be able to see it, but from certain angles, because when you can see the cars and stuff, you'd be able to see. I'm imagining some sort of mural or painting or something like that. But then there's all the column. Okay, let me pull up I have a picture. There's columns and stuff. So.
And we have little icons too. It'll let you add.
Ooh, actually, and there's like opportunities to do the like underneath of the bridge, and then let me pull this picture.
I mean, let's do the whole bridge, right? We have
exactly.
the whole bridge, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Trevor, I dropped the
There
sort
we
of
go.
picture. It's not a great thing to draw on, but
there's something. We'll make that on the front.
It also shows the cracking.
Though actually we need, I guess if we're docking mural, it's from above, right? But maybe we're saying, actually, well, maybe it's not. Maybe you say it's sort of things that are on it that can, like, what if it's like kites that come, oop, why is that not working here?
A bubble machine under the bridge.
Oh, it won't let us draw on top of.
Oh, bummer. Ooh, I liked what you were saying about kites, like a bunch of kites just coming off of the bridge.
Yeah, like if you had them anchored
right
along here.
That's a good idea.
I don't know why it's highlighting. Oh, I think it's
That's
because I haven't
kind of
clicked done. That's what's going on.
It's also kind of like an immersive experience too. Ooh, that's good.
We got all our
What are all like the little gray boxes?
oh, on the screen there, it's because if I click done on my iPad here, it'll.
Oh, I see.
I'm cheating. I'm using a even with that, it like fidelity of drawing on this is low end. But feel free, anybody, to add some kites.
No, that's good.
On your screen. I think we're going to go for another 2. Actually, let me change this here. This is actually going for another 2 minutes here. Set the timer. There we go. Let's see. What else do we need anything else on our? I guess if they gotta tear it down, we should just color it.
Pretty much all the paint.
Just use all the paint, yeah.
I mean, at night we could have light shows underneath of it, like projected
Oh
underneath.
yeah, okay, that's
you know?
that's a good ad here. Yeah, let's see.
You could
Projector.
Some music symbols.
Yeah. Well, that's our projector symbol here. Yeah, music notes here. I'm gonna move our bridge back. I'm gonna just toss that for now. Okay, and then I'll click done here, and then I think it'll look better.
Yes,
there it is.
It looks awesome.
So we have, hang on, we got to write our little notes here. We got to say there's a mural above, chalk, mural. Nope. We'll make that full so we know. And then we've got edit projection below. And then we've got anchored kites from public.
Yeah, a bubble machine. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is our thing over here? Is this our?
That's the I don't know what that is. But I think bubble machine. You could just say that.
That's our bubble. That's our bubble machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then we've got music below also, projection and music.
Lights. The light show too. Yeah, at night.
Oh shoot! All right, we got it.
60 seconds. We're I think. Oh yeah, we had our music. Yeah, we'll say. I'll make one more here. It says music. Edit music. Cool.
Love it.
Okay. All right. We'll see you all back in the main room. Thank you.
All right.
Looks like we have almost everyone back. Perfect. We should all be back from our breakout spaces now.
All right. Okay. As we dwindle here, as people drop off, we're gonna make this as quick as we can so that we can get any final questions. Let's go to Blue Room. I don't know who is leading Blue Room, but please go ahead and start. I will share screen here so that we all can see.
So in our room, or Michelle, did you want to?
No, you can go
ahead. So we didn't get into the specifics of everyone's ideas, but we kind of jumped into getting into a single concept and then getting that onto the sheet. Basically, our idea was using the virtual realm to have like a collaborative experience that people could build on over time. And so the idea behind that is kind of similar to the Exquisite Corpse, where one person will draw something or will come up with an idea, and then the next person will add on to that, and then it'll continue to kind of snowball into something that's like completely new.
And what's the drawing?
Our collaborative Exquisite Corpse.
Perfect. Any more to share about Blue Room?
Does anyone want to share any of their ideas that they've put on the stickies?
Can you guys explain the rippling sound waves one? That sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
What one?
The rippling sound waves.
Yeah. We had a few people drop off from our group, so it may have been one of those people.
It sounds like it's kind of like each time you click the mouse, there's sort of a different sound or something that would happen.
It's like a global band.
Yeah, I think whoever posted it might have left. But yeah, that was a really fun idea. Someone also talked about how there's been this movement of photographers taking pictures of people in their homes, and how it kind of seems to be happening in every city, but that's been a really fun project. What else was there? Lots of like live streaming, workshops, classes.
It's interesting to see live streaming music and dance performances, especially with all those Italian YouTube videos with the DJs on the balconies.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to move on to Pink Room. All right. Pink Room, we were talking about physical stuff. I'm going to pick rather than me talk more and more. I think there's still somebody around from that room. Hannah, is she still there?
All right, we're gonna take over the West Seattle Bridge. We figure, I mean, no one else is using it right now, I think. So so we're gonna take over the whole thing. We're gonna do a big mural on the top. So that's that chalk mural. That's the top view of the bridge that you can see there. that, you know, I'm sure if there's a helicopter or someone paragliding over it, they'll be able to see that view. It's gonna be really cool. Or the top of the hill in West Seattle. I don't know, I don't live in West Seattle, but there's like a big hill going up there. And then from the side, you'll still be able to enjoy it because you're gonna get to see some kites that are gonna be like blowing around in the wind. It's gonna be really bright and colorful and exciting and dynamic. And then if that wasn't enough for you, below the bridge, especially at night, there's gonna be a projected light show and music. It's gonna be, it's gonna be under the bridge and people are gonna be able to see it from safe distances. We don't want anyone to crowd and gather, but they won't have to because it's gonna be up there for 14 days. So I hope that someone on this call is from the Seattle city government and is listening and is like really down with this awesome idea.
Thank you. Yeah, Katie, you're on it.
Does it sound like a no or an awesome idea?
Is this an awesome idea or is this an awesome idea?
Oh, Katie, I think you're muted.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm on the equitable development team, so I'm all about awesome ideas from community. SDOT, maybe not, but I will totally float it with some of my colleagues and see, you know, if we start now, maybe we'll get to yes.
I mean, we've got 2 years, right? So
yeah, if not this year, then
Yeah,
next year,
it still works
or the
no
year
matter
after.
right. I'm sure the West Seattle residents would appreciate some art on the bridge too.
They might also just be like, why are you spending money doing
Yes,
anything
yeah.
other
Oh,
than
no.
building a new
Fixing our-
bridge?
yeah.
Also that. Also, I forgot to mention the bubble machine. I just wanted to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of like, you know, when there was that last walk on the viaduct, you know, there was a bunch of like street art and projections. So, I mean, might as well.
Well, and our Office of Arts and Culture is a little more bold and forward thinking than they're awesome. And they, I think, are going to be central in our planning for the Recovery Act. So what recovery looks like. So I will bring it up with them as well.
I should say we got to the West Seattle Bridge by talking about the idea that, you know, public right of way being used currently for like pedestrians and sort of whether it's sanctioned or not. I mean, it's now going to be permanently sanctioned in some areas. But you know, I drove to a job site in Queen Anne a few days ago and like the roads were mostly people jogging like in the roads and not like cars. So it was like, it's already sort of happened. And the other half of we talked about was sort of, I think that idea of like people playing music on their balcony or like things that are distance, but physical. So that this boards will exist online for everybody to come see. But what we want to do with our last remaining few minutes was do some question and answers. If anybody has any questions about the festival itself, about the call for proposals, now is the time. I'm going to drop out a screen share here for a minute unless we need it.
And I know I asked this question earlier, but this is more of a question for everyone, though. How did you like your experience today? It's a bit of a different way to collaborate, more interactive, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, we're getting some thumbs up. It's a good sign.
I really enjoyed it. I thought I'd used Mural like once or twice before, but I hadn't really used it in this way with this many people. So I loved it. I thought it was really fun, and I like to kind of see some of the other boards too, even if I wasn't in that group.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding applications. So if you have an organization that has several ideas for a project, is it safe to say that each idea should be submitted separately since they're unique?
I think that would actually be the easiest way for the core team to go through and accept those proposals. Now, if they are programs that are interrelated or connected in some way, We've had some examples of that. That would be something that you would propose with one application, but could potentially be both a physical and virtual element. If, however, they're unique programs, then I would recommend submitting them as such so that we're able to actually display them as separate programs on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I had a question regarding applications too. Is there a way I could see like the ideas, initial ideas of other designers as well, so that like I'm looking forward to collaborate with another designer. So is there a way to look for me, like which person to, you know, approach or reach out to?
I can, so there was with our previous incarnation before we went virtual. We
Yeah.
had some structures set up for that. And this event, when we had a physical event, was sort of part of that. We would have everybody just share. And this time around, I don't know if we have any mechanisms that are going to be super effective for that right now.
Okay.
We do, when we review the proposals, so when you submit something, we do tell people, hey, you've got a very similar idea, or there's things here that seem to really match. And so there's an opportunity there, but we sort of leave it up to the participants themselves to make that connection. So if there's some similar veins, that'll come up. I don't know if we have any others. We have an online forum for the old block party, but again, there's no block party this year. And we didn't think we were able to sort of get much of a forum going for any of the new things this year.
Would it be possible to set up a Slack channel?
We
I was gonna say, you totally read my mind. There's one for architecty and design, Portland design thinking, that there's a lot of cool things going on. So that's a great idea.
That way it'd be easier. People could find, you know, if they need help, and then also find groups if they want.
Yeah, that's something we can do. Not within, we have our own internal Slack, but there might be a way to create a separate Slack that anybody can join and add in.
We can definitely explore that. I would also say the core team contacts in the call for proposals. So we've got this amazing large core team, but then within that we have subcommittees that are focused specifically on community spotlights and partner programs. That's another resource that could help connect people together.
Yeah. And within that, I'm throwing this out there now. I don't know if any of the marketing people are here, but we have social media channels, and there's no reason we couldn't use certain aspects of those social media channels to broadcast and ask. So yeah, definitely email, and then maybe we can go from there. Because I could see using like Instagram story or something to say, you know, you share, you give us a little 20-second clip and we put it there, and, you know, put it out in the world.
I would also just add, we'll be following up with this Zoom meeting with an email. And so one of the things we can do is get a better sense of how many of you are looking for that connection. And that can help us inform what we can do to create spaces for you to collaborate.
Any other questions? Or have we reached peak Zoom burnout?
Looking like a yes.
Trevor, I have a question, actually. I'm just wondering kind of about submissions. So before the design festival, you know, there was programming and then the block party. Are you anticipating like more submissions this year and potentially accepting more? I'm not quite sure like how, because the you know, it's a different program, sort of what the committee's thinking about submissions and all of that.
Well, Anna Lee might be able to share better what's going on behind the scenes from the staff side.
So I think there's a few things. Quick answer, it's unknown. But there are some things that enable us to engage with more partners. So we're not limited by a schedule, which is exciting. Additionally, all of our programs are running through the duration of the festival, which gives us more scheduling time for programs without necessarily having the competition that we would have had if we were trying to schedule everything on 2 days. The other thing that we are excited to see is we've dropped the application fees, which means it's now more accessible to other partner organizations that may not have been able to engage with us earlier. We'll really have to see what the results of all of these different variables are. I think we're excited about the possibility of having more partners, but we really don't know because digital fatigue and Zoom fatigue and stretched resources are a thing. So I think we're all excited to see what the result and what this festival can actually be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the global aspect of it this time around is interesting. For sure, we'll be able to leverage that in audience because that's a longer lead up and we can really sort of push that out to places beyond just Seattle. But it'd be cool too if that meant global submissions. That seems less likely at the moment given the sort of way we market. But this is sort of exciting compared to the early days, or it feels like the early days of the festival when it first started, because everything is very Wild West and it's hard when you don't know what is going on or what can happen, but also there's a lot of opportunity there. Like, so this is the chance to really try some new stuff this time around. And we're looking, the fact that a lot of this will be virtual means a lot of it can be captured, and we can analyze it a lot better than a physical event where we're just kind of clicking buttons to count people and stuff like that. So hopefully we learn a lot more this year than we have in previous years.
And with that being said, Trevor, with this being a digital experience, I could definitely see a lot more people having the already built skills to participate versus before, where when you're building a physical object, there are those limitations that come with that.
Yeah. Any final questions? I think we're basically at 8. This will be recorded and up on YouTube at some point here too, if you meet anybody who missed out.
Hoping to see all you guys apply, right? Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We'll
Thanks,
see ya.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.